sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, welcome back for another deep dive. And today you've sent us a match report that's pretty interesting on paper. It's Wolves versus Arsenal, a 1-0 win for Arsenal. But this Premier League clash definitely had more going on than meets the eye, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the context of where both these teams were at, it was a massive game for both sides. You know, Arsenal were desperately trying to stay in that title race, 6 points behind Liverpool going into this match. So, yeah, every point mattered. And then on the other side, you've got Wolves, who are really fighting relegation, sitting just outside the drop zone, coming off 3 losses in a row. So a lot at stake for both teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, the match report here highlights a pretty crucial moment early on. Can you set the scene for us there?
Yeah, so it was right before halftime. And you've got Arsenal midfielder Myles Lewis-Skelly. He's given a straight red card for a challenge on Matt Doherty. And it's one of those decisions that even watching it live, you know, commentators were divided. Some thought it was a harsh call. Others said it was the right decision. But regardless, it definitely set up a really interesting second half with Arsenal down to 10 men.
Down to 10 men for a whole half. So you'd think that Wolves would be able to capitalize on that, right?
You'd think so, right? I mean, Wolves were relying quite a bit on Kuna's pace to create chances, and you'd think with that extra man, they would be able to really exploit the space.
Yeah.
But Arsenal's backline, even down a man, did a pretty remarkable job at containing Kuna and limiting his impact. So they adapted well to the situation, I think.
Yeah, so it sounds like even though they had a man advantage, it might not have been as straightforward as you'd think for Wolves. And the report actually mentions a couple of near misses from Kuna. Specifically, I think around the 65th minute. Did Wolves kind of let themselves down with their attack in those moments? Or was it just one of those days where nothing was going to go in?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things, you know. They had some pretty good chances, like you said, particularly around that 65th minute. But you also have to give credit to Arsenal keeper David Raya, who made some really crucial saves. And I think, you know, Wolves may have struggled to find a way to break down that organized Arsenal defense, even with the numerical advantage. And you know, maybe they became a little predictable in their attacks, and Arsenal were able to anticipate that.
Okay, so Arsenal's still very much in it. Then things get shaken up again, right?
Yeah, so the game takes another turn.
Yeah.
And Wolves midfielder Joan Gomes picks up a second yellow. And this is for a challenge on Jurriën Timber.
Yeah.
So just like the teams are back to equal strength.
Back to equal strength. How do you think that affected the flow of the match?
I think, you know, up to that point, even though Arsenal had been down a man, they had defended resolutely. And you could sense a growing frustration in the Wolves side that they were unable to kind of convert that advantage into goals. So I think that second red card really swung the momentum back towards Arsenal, almost gave them a bit of a psychological boost.
It's fascinating how those moments can totally change the tide of a match. And, you know, obviously that red card happened. Did that open the door for Arsenal's eventual victory?
It certainly played a significant role. And I think, you know, it's worth noting that shortly after this red card, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta makes a crucial substitution, bringing on Riccardo Calafiori.
So this is where things get really interesting.
Right.
The match report says Calafiori comes on and is basically the hero of the hour.
Yeah, Calafiori coming in was a huge moment. Just minutes after stepping onto the pitch, he scores this absolute stunner of a volley, takes advantage of a poor clearance from Nelson Semedo. And to add even more to it, this was only his second goal for Arsenal. So, you know, a real glimpse of the impact he could have for them.
It's these unexpected moments that make football so fun, you know? A sub comes on, scores this amazing winning goal. It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, and it shows just how tactically aware Arteta is and the faith that he has in Calafiori, right? I mean, bringing him on at that moment when the game is so tight, such a bold move, and it paid off.
So, you know, even with being down a man for so much of the match, Arsenal still pull off the win. What does that tell us about this Arsenal side, how tough they are?
Oh, this match was a real test of their resilience, their grit, you know? They defended as a unit, they were organized, they were disciplined, even when it would have been easy to get tired.
Yeah.
And yeah, Raya had a great game in goal with some big saves, but it was a real team effort. Everyone played their part.
Yeah, it really shows that even when things are tough, you know, if you've got a strong team spirit and some tactical smarts, you can still get results. All right, so final score, 1-0 to Arsenal.
Yeah, a hard-fought victory. Keeps them right in the mix for the title.
And for Wolves, that loss must be a tough one to take.
It's a tough result for them. Puts them in a more difficult spot with the relegation battle. 4 straight defeats. that can really shake a team's confidence. So they need to figure out how to turn things around if they want to stay up.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the whole match, you have to wonder about that first red card for Arsenal. Was that the turning point? Do you think if that hadn't happened, Wolves would have had a different result? Or was Arsenal always going to get the win?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? It's hard to say for sure. I mean, the red card definitely made things harder for Arsenal, put them under pressure for a big chunk of the game. But, maybe it made them have to fight even harder. Maybe it brought out their resilience in a way that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Like it almost ignited something in them, made them more determined.
Right. And we can't forget that Wolves also had a man sent off. So things were evened out in the end. Who knows? Maybe if Gomes doesn't get that second yellow, Wolves hold on for the draw or even manage to sneak a win. Football is a game of small margins and unexpected turns.
Yeah, definitely. We see that all the time. It's what makes it so interesting. Well, this deep dive has been a real roller coaster ride, just like that match, Controversial calls, moments of brilliance, and that incredible resilience from Arsenal to get the win.
It really highlights that anything is possible in football. And this win might just be the boost Arsenal need to go all the way.
Speaking of boosts, that goal from Calafiori, man, what a goal. I think this could be a breakout moment for him at Arsenal.
It could be, It takes a lot of confidence and composure to score a goal like that, especially when it's only your second for the club. So it'll be interesting to see how Arteta uses him moving forward.
I'm always excited to see young players come through and really make a statement. And maybe this is the start of something special for Calafiori.
Yeah, time will tell. But we definitely saw a flash of his talent in this match. Sometimes it's these unexpected players who step up in the biggest moments.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, was there anything else from the match that really stood out to you?
Well, I thought it was really interesting to see the reactions from both managers after the match. Arteta, even with the red card and how close the game was, seemed pretty calm. He was praising his team's toughness and their ability to just grind out a win.
Yeah, you can tell that he's built a certain mentality into that Arsenal squad. They don't fall apart when things go wrong. They just find a way to adapt.
What about the Wolves manager? How did he react?
Well, Vitor Pereira was, understandably, pretty frustrated. He felt like that second yellow for Gomes was a bit harsh, and that it ended up costing them the match.
It just goes to show how the same event can look so different depending on your perspective. And that's what makes these deep dives so interesting, right? We're not just looking at the score. We're trying to understand the tactics, the emotions, even the luck that all play a part in how a match turns out. Yeah, it's all about those little details and appreciating just how complex this sport really is.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this Premier League battle. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I was right there on the pitch, experiencing all the drama.
Definitely a match with a lot to talk about, from those controversial decisions to the moments of brilliance. And you can't forget that amazing display of resilience from Arsenal to get the win.
Before we go, I have one last question for you to think about. Was that red card for Lewis-Skelly the moment that cost Wolves the match? Or would Arsenal have won no matter what? What does this game tell us about how luck and resilience work in football?
That's a tough one. It's impossible to know for sure. I mean, maybe without that red card, Arsenal wouldn't have had to work so hard. Maybe Wolves would have had more time to settle into the match. But then again, maybe this Arsenal team is just built to overcome challenges.
Yeah.
Like it's in their DNA.
Makes you think about how all these different pieces come together to shape a match. And in the end, we'll never know what could have been. But that's part of what makes the sport so captivating, right?
It is. The unpredictability keeps us coming back for more. And this match was a perfect example of that.
This has been another great deep dive. Thanks for joining me. Can't wait to see what exciting match report we explore next time.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll.